This video is a tutorial on using the English Learner Profile. If you have an ELL enrolled in your classroom, then you will have received an English Learner Profile. This would have been shared via email from me, either at the very beginning of the school year or shortly after the student enrolled in the school district if they enrolled after the first 30 days. I will review the information that's on this document. It should include a photo if we have one on file, as well as demographic information. Tier 3, this will either say yes or no, and I'll explain that in more detail in a moment. Years in the English Language Development Program, this is important for several reasons. One is that it will give you an idea. If you have a student who's been in the program 1 or 2 years, then you will likely anticipate needing to provide additional language supports in the classroom. Also, the Department of Education expects us to exit students within 5 years. We have 5 years to provide students with English language development opportunities enough so that they can exit the program. So if you have a student and their profile says 5 or more, there's a little added intensity to provide additional opportunities for them to develop the language this year so that they will exit the program on the next assessment. This box, additional relevant information, just will provide you some information that we deem is important for you as a classroom teacher to know about your student. This might include gaps in formal education, trauma of immigration, transferring throughout several districts, those sorts of things. Here we've included a pyramid image to represent our English language development program. So our program operates in a tier model. A response to intervention, an RTI model, which has the 3 tiers. All students in the program qualify for Tier 1 interventions. These happen in the mainstream classroom. This is high quality instruction delivered to all of your students, is what Tier 1 represents. So this is created by our core teams, our curriculum teams, who work hard to develop our content area curriculums. These teams provide opportunities for students to engage in reading, writing, listening, and speaking while learning content, so every student is exposed to Tier 1. Tier 2 is provided by the classroom teacher. These are differentiations in the classroom. They can either be planned ahead of instruction or they can be provided in the moment depending on student need. And then some of the students in our program qualify for the Tier 3 interventions. That's where this box comes into play. It's either yes or no. So if a student qualifies for Tier 3, it's because their access score is a 2.9 or below. So not all students in our program will qualify. If they do, it means that they'll receive supplemental language instruction that can either be delivered in a one-on-one or small group setting outside of the mainstream classroom, or for some of our newcomer students, this may look like a bilingual paraprofessional pushing into the classroom and providing assistance to the student during your instruction. So if this says no, it means the student is not going to be removed from your classroom to receive additional instruction. It means that their language development needs can be met by high quality Tier 1 instruction and Tier 2 interventions provided by you in your classroom. On the right here we have areas of focus for mainstream classroom teachers. So this number 2.9, this is their overall score on the Access for ELLs. So this number determines whether or not they qualify for Tier 3. So whether or not they qualify, it's really important to also know the subscores. So the test that they take includes this overall score, which places them in their tier, but it also includes 4 subtests, a reading, a writing, a listening, and a speaking test. And those scores are reported on a scale of 1 to 6. The reason these are important is because if you're a classroom teacher, then you're providing Tier 2 interventions to any English learner that's in your classroom. And in order to know what their student will need, you need to know what their proficiency level is. So for example, this student is reading at a level 3. So this gives you a little bit of information of what that might look like or what you might offer. This student is writing at a level 2, and there's some information about what the student might need to be able to do in January when they take the next test. The student is listening at a level 5, which is a peer level. So to you as a classroom teacher, that tells you that you're likely not going to need to offer Tier 2 interventions, Tier 2 supports, differentiations to this student when it comes to listening, because they're already listening at a 5, a peer level, and so their developing English proficiency is no longer a barrier when you're lecturing or you're speaking to them, or they're listening to their peers. The student's speaking score is a 3.2, so it's giving some information here about something you might try to provide an additional opportunity for your student to develop that language proficiency. At the bottom, there are some classroom supports that you can provide to the student in the classroom. This is not an exhaustive list. There are, of course, other things that you can provide. These are some of the accommodations that you can offer to students to help provide additional opportunities for them to be successful in your classroom. Some of them are non-negotiable, like extended time. If it's been indicated that a student receives extended time, that's because as an English learner in the Title III program, they're offered certain protections that are similar to an IEP in special education. And so students get extended time. Not all students will have this marked if it's not necessary. Also, if it's not marked and you deem that it's necessary based on your observations, then you can make that professional judgment and provide that. There are other things here that are maybe not a requirement, but a suggestion. So the student might benefit from being able to use Google Translate or some other online translator. Also, it's highly recommended that you might provide some exemplars for this particular student. So when we look at the student's writing, they're only writing at a level 2. And so if you were to provide an exemplar of a writing assignment, then it would be a good scaffold to help that student. So this document is a snapshot of what this child can do. If you have additional questions about this document or our English language development program, you can reach out to me at any time.